You might not have spotted it at first, and honestly that's because it isn't working very well, but there's a very familiar pattern unfolding again. Every time serious questions start circling the palace, every time uncomfortable names resurface, every time the word Epstein creeps back into headlines connected to the royal orbit, suddenly Harry and Meghan are dragged front and centre like a flashing distraction sign. It's almost mechanical at this point. Scandal over here? Quick point at the Sussexes over there. And this latest attempt might be one of the most obvious yet. Instead of focusing on the lingering stench surrounding Prince Andrew's past associations, certain papers have decided the real tragedy of the week is apparently Prince William's emotional suffering because his brother dares to challenge the tabloids in court. Yes, really. We're being asked to feel sorry for a future king because Harry is pursuing justice through the legal system. The violins come out, the headlines tremble, the language becomes theatrical. Poor William, heavy burden, family pain, brotherly distress. But look closely at what's actually happening. The narrative isn't about compassion, it's about deflection. Because Harry's court case isn't petty drama. It isn't sibling rivalry. It isn't gossip. It's about alleged criminal behaviour by powerful media institutions. He's standing alongside high-profile figures, entertainers and public personalities accusing a major newspaper group of illegally accessing private information. We're talking about claims of surveillance, bugging vehicles, tracking personal data, listening in on communications. These are serious accusations that cut right to the heart of how the tabloid industry has operated for decades. That's not melodrama, that's accountability. But instead of discussing what those allegations reveal about media power, certain outlets twist the story into, "This must be so hard for William." Notice the sleight of hand. The focus shifts away from whether wrongdoing happened and onto whether Harry is being inconvenient. It's a classic tactic. Don't examine the system. Criticise the whistleblower. And honestly, it would almost be laughable if it weren't so transparent. Because compared to the unresolved questions around Andrew and his connections to Jeffrey Epstein, Harry's legal fight is hardly the scandal of the century. If anything, it's the opposite. It's someone attempting to challenge a culture of intrusion and intimidation. Yet we're told this is the problem. Not the prince photographed with a convicted trafficker. Not the lawsuits, not the settlements, not the testimonies. No, the problem is Harry filing paperwork in court. Make it make sense. When that sympathy campaign didn't quite land, the coverage took an even stranger turn. Suddenly, we're not talking about lawsuits or public accountability at all. We're talking about bathrooms. Yes, bathrooms. Entire articles dedicated to counting the number of toilets in Harry and Meghan's California home, as if the square footage of their plumbing is somehow breaking news. Breathless lines about how many loos they have. Faux shock. Forced confusion. Fans baffled. Which fans, exactly? Because most normal people are worried about mortgages, groceries and their electricity bills, not conducting forensic analysis of someone else's guest bathroom. But this is what happens when there's nothing substantial to attack. The criticism becomes microscopic, petty, almost desperate. If they can't smear you with something serious, they'll mock you for something trivial. It's playground stuff, dressed up as journalism. And again, notice the timing. Every time the monarchy faces legitimate scrutiny, out comes another Sussex distraction. A lawsuit becomes family drama. A charity appearance becomes attention-seeking. A house becomes too big. A dress becomes copying Diana. Anything, absolutely anything. Because what they really don't want is the spotlight lingering where it naturally wants to go. Back to Andrew, back to Epstein, back to who knew what and when. The institution has a problem, and it's not Harry and Meghan. It's that they can't easily explain why one royal couple gets relentless hostility while another royal figure, tied to genuinely disturbing associations, gets kid glove treatment and quiet exits. They don't want apologies. Apologies imply wrongdoing. They don't want investigations. Investigations imply consequences. And heaven forbid a royal faces consequences like an ordinary citizen. So instead, they manufacture noise, and Meghan is always their favourite target. Take the recent fashion nonsense. Meghan attends an event celebrating black-owned businesses, wearing a gown by a respected designer, deliberately honouring the legacy of a pioneering black creative figure. It's thoughtful, it's cultural, it's meaningful. So what do some outlets do? They erase all of that context. Suddenly, the story isn't about supporting black designers or celebrating history. It's twisted into she's copying Diana again. Every single time. It doesn't matter what Meghan wears. If it's white, it's Diana. If it's black, it's Diana. If she smiles, it's Diana. If she breathes near a camera, apparently it's a tribute act. It becomes absurd. Because reducing every choice she makes to Diana cosplay isn't just lazy, it conveniently erases Meghan's own identity and the people she's actually uplifting. A black designer during Black History Month at a black business gala should be a straightforward story. But that doesn't serve the palace-friendly narrative. So they rewrite it, and you start to see the pattern clearly. Harry stands up to the press, he's selfish. Meghan honours a designer, she's copying someone. Their house exists, it's excessive. They speak, they're whining. They stay silent, they're scheming. There is no winning condition because the goal was never fairness. The goal is distraction. Keep the Sussexes controversial, so nobody asks harder questions elsewhere. But here's the thing. People aren't as gullible as the tabloids think. The public can hold two thoughts at once. We can see a legal case and understand it's about privacy rights. We can see a charity event and understand it's about community. And we can also see that a royal linked repeatedly to Epstein is still the elephant in the room. You can't bury that forever under bathroom articles and fashion nitpicks. It doesn't work. If anything, the overkill backfires. Because the more they obsess over Meghan's dress seams or Harry's court filings, the more obvious it becomes that something bigger is being avoided. It's like watching a magician wave one hand frantically while the other hand hides the trick. After a while, you stop watching the waving hand. And let's be honest, Harry's decision to fight these media groups isn't reckless. It's risky, yes, expensive, absolutely, but reckless? No. If anything, it's one of the few attempts we've seen to challenge a system that has operated with near impunity for decades. How many lives have been wrecked by false headlines, by hacked phones, by private grief turned into front-page spectacle? Someone finally says, "Enough," and the reaction is to paint him as the villain. That tells you everything. Because institutions don't fear troublemakers, they fear accountability. And accountability is exactly what this case threatens. If courts start ruling against these practices, it changes the game. It sets precedents. It limits power. It costs money. That's why the coverage is so hostile. Not because William is sad, not because Harry is mean, but because real consequences scare them. Meanwhile, the palace's preferred strategy seems frozen in time. Pretend everything is fine. Pretend criticism is disloyalty. Pretend scandals are misunderstandings. And if all else fails, blame Harry and Meghan. It's outdated. It's clumsy, and frankly, it's starting to feel tired. The world has moved on from blindly accepting whatever the palace whispers into friendly editors' ears. People ask questions now, and the more the Sussexes are used as human shields, the clearer it becomes that they're not the problem, they're just convenient targets. So when you see another dramatic headline about Harry causing pain, or Meghan causing outrage, or the shocking number of sinks in their house, pause for a second. Ask yourself, what story are they trying not to cover today? Because that's usually where the truth lives. And no amount of tabloid theatrics, no sympathetic violin music, no petty bathroom counting is going to drown out the real issue. The questions around Andrew haven't vanished, the Epstein files haven't evaporated, and the public memory isn't as short as certain institutions hope. The distraction playbook is old, and it's losing its power, which might explain why the attacks feel louder lately. When a strategy stops working, you don't use it lest you use it more desperately, and that desperation shows. So while the palace and its press allies keep pointing fingers at Harry and Meghan, more and more people are quietly looking in the opposite direction, right where they didn't want us to look. And that's why these distractions feel so frantic now, because the shield isn't holding anymore, and the truth has a way of surfacing no matter how many headlines try to bury it.